So Florida State had another scrimmage on Saturday, August the 22nd, and we were given some shoddy footage of it, so we're here to give some overreactions on it. My name is Kevin Little.
I'm Juan Montalvo.
I'm John Marchant.
And I'm Adam Brown.
We're going to start by looking at the film as a whole, and then we're going to give our thoughts on each individual clip that we think is important.
Nice catch.
Was a good catch. Got several clips of nice short motion by Blackman.
Yeah, it's one thing I'm happy to see continue.
Oof, get that ball up.
Bad.
Boom.
Ooh, hit stick.
Spaceballs helmet. Love the backs in the flat.
Yeah, I love the use of the backs in the passing game.
Wolf, who's blocking Griffis?
And Lundy, for that matter.
Good throw and catch. MVP right there. Cam McDonald.
Do the big boy rumble.
Good call.
Look at Poitier. Didn't know that he had this in his game.
Oh, he's looking like a stud.
I mean, the real star there was Tate.
Oof,
Stephen Dixon coverage.
That's a nice play. Yeah.
Yeah, he got that. He got a hand on that. Wasn't a great throw. Some nice movement here.
Yeah, Tolefilis looks like he got a little juice to his game.
He had a couple nice clips in this one.
All in all, the footage was kind of hard to see. What are some first takes you guys had?
Cam McDonald looks really nice in open space for a guy his size. I mean, he's a guy that's looked good in the first couple scrimmage videos that we've been able to see. I think at this rate, fans are getting more and more high on him. And by the time we get to the Georgia Tech game, I texted you guys this earlier, but people are going to think he's like the next Tony Gonzalez at this rate.
Yeah, he looks good.
He does. He really does.
Biggest takeaway for me was not necessarily the guys that were on the field, but the ones that weren't. If you look at the sidelines on some of those clips, you can see a lot of guys standing there and not in pads that probably would have helped the offense a little bit. Just some of the takeaways from Norvell in his post scrimmage press conference. He talked a lot about the offense not having a lot of juice and all this, different stuff, and how much do those guys make a difference?
For me, linebackers are active in coverage. We saw a lot of the running backs. There's some things in there about the offensive line. Obviously, they struggled some, but overall, there's some good things to take away. They pulled a lot of them out, and we were expecting to see that, but it's nice to actually watch it.
Yeah, I think it's easy to get overexcited about the defense. They showed up the offense in almost all these clips, but I think the freshman Josh Griffis makes a nice play on his own read that I'd like to touch on a little bit later. But I think there were some real standouts from these sets of clips that we got.
Yeah, just looking at the clips, you can kind of get an idea what the depth chart is on the offensive line. It's looking like the first team is from left to right, Darius Washington, then Lucas, then Bavion, then Scott, and then at right tackle Love Taylor. And then the second group was Chaz Neal. Left guard was Thomas Schrader. Center was Maurice Smith. Right guard was Baselli. And right tackle was Robert Scott. So 2 freshmen on that second team O-line. They're probably not going to do great.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising to me to hear Baselli on the second team because, I don't know, it feels like we've heard so much good about him.
Yeah, I wonder how much those guys are rotating different teams, working that battle. But Bavion's a returner, so
that's true.
It's his job to kind of lose.
Number 1 center in the nation, right?
Yeah.
At one time.
A long, long time ago.
He's a redshirt senior too, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's time.
So which poorly filmed clip do you guys want to take a look at first?
I'd like to let's take a look at that one with Kentron Poitier, making a nice little move in space there. You're through people rather than in space, I suppose.
Okay, so let me pull that up for us real quick. Here's the screen pass to Poitier.
Look at, you're getting Rector out. You're getting Toafili out blocking on this. It's actually set up really well.
Yeah, it's a nice little, like a middle screen there.
Yeah, and even the defense plays it well. It's just Poitier makes a move, breaks a tackle.
The film is crap, but is this I'm thinking this is Poitier coming dragging from across the field behind the line of scrimmage. That's the big fancy screen these days, where you catch him running, and then they can try to set up a little wall here.
That's what it looks like on first couple glances.
I mean, you kind of see the wall set up, but Dent misses a block there, and Toafili doesn't throw much of a block either.
I like the edge this kid plays with.
Yeah, and I like the way he moves at his size too.
Yeah,
this poor kid was an afterthought in the recruiting class. Boy, what a gem he might turn out to be.
Yeah, he's looking really good so far. Not just the catching. He's made several great catches, but this is the first time we've really seen him with the ball in his hands, and he's making moves.
And, there's some named guys on that defense. I'm seeing Demore Tate out there. I'm seeing Cyrus Fagan out there. So these aren't walk-ons. There's a couple backup walk-on types, but...
Yeah, but he's not going against the threes, let's put it that way.
No.
I mean, there is the touchdown catch later over the walk-on, but this was not that.
Yeah, I think he's got a good person to learn from too, and Terry, and so it's a good role model to start modeling your game after.
Yeah, one thing that's nice is you have a couple different guys there on the outside that he can really sort of, he doesn't have to step in on day one and be a complete player. I mean, you could put him in for stuff like that screenplay. He's a guy that can, he's got talent. He may not be ready day one to step in as one of your top guys or even one of the main guys in your receiver rotation, but he's a guy who I think they're probably going to want to find a way to get him the ball a little bit.
Oh, wide receiver is a position you don't know what you have right now. Where's Thompson's head at? DJ, all kinds of rumors swirling around him. Pokey Wilson. There's a lot of unknowns at the wide receiver position right now. So it's nice to see a freshman stepping up. And, if you can get a freshman in the game and start getting them valuable reps, I say go for it.
Especially in a weird season like this. I mean, we did see Helton come back in a non-contact jersey in this scrimmage. So, I mean, that was nice to see as well.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about a redshirt because he's not losing this season of eligibility.
Nope.
Didn't he get tackled in that shirt?
He got tackled in the non-contact shirt. That was like the first clip on one of the YouTube videos I saw of it.
Do you think it's possible that Poitier ends up putting on 15, 20 pounds and they move him inside to tight end later in his career, or do you think he's firmly set as an outside receiver?
Yeah, I would say he's probably an outside receiver.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's a South Florida kid. He looks pretty lean. I think it would be more than 15 pounds to get him bulked up to tight end. But, look, I don't like putting labels on these guys because Norvell's shown that he's going to move people around and put them in different positions. So,
right.
You call him a tight end, but he may line up there and still be a wide receiver,
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that.
So, is there another clip you guys were thinking? I think it might be worth a second look at the Josh Griffis clip that people have been talking about.
Yeah.
Talk about quite a bit.
All right, so you've got a little zone read action here, probably an RPO. It's hard to see what's going on the outside, but looking at James' eyes, and I mean, they're just bringing a blitz. They're just bringing a blitz. I've seen people talking about who's supposed to block Griffis. Nobody's supposed to block Griffis. Nobody. He's supposed to be unblocked. That's the design of the play.
Yeah, you got Griffis and Lundy in there, both coming down, hard. I mean, I don't think Lundy was sitting there waiting. He was going back into the backfield. It looks like it was a run blitz, That's what it was. I mean, like you said, Griffis isn't supposed to be blocked here. He's an unblocked end. That's the guy they're supposed to be reading. And when you have a run blitz where you have another guy out there on the end, well, you got more guys than blockers.
And people got to remember, all right, what a scrimmage is. A scrimmage is an opportunity to work a lot of different things in with your offense, with your defense. But these guys are seeing these plays every single day in practice. They know when they line up what's coming. I mean, they just do. So it's great to talk about the defenses whipping the offense, and we want to see some more juice out of the offense and see them get going here and be more consistent. But I guarantee you, Josh Griffis has seen this play probably 50 times already in practice.
Plus triple that in the film.
Yeah, and just to make things super clear to those viewers who aren't aware what we're talking about, in this play, James Blackman has to make the decision to keep it himself or to give it based off Josh Griffis. So if they block Josh Griffis, he has no way of deciding. And since they bring an extra man outside, he can't keep it himself because there's someone to account for him and there's someone to account for the running back. So no one on the offense did anything necessarily wrong here. Sometimes the defense just has it sniffed out.
I'd even go a step further and say that I think Blackman made the right play. You hand it off to the running back because as a quarterback, you don't want to take the hit from Lundy like that and maybe fumble the ball and turn it over. Just hand it off, take the loss, move on to the next play.
When in doubt, hand it out.
Now, there's things that maybe are going on that we aren't aware of. Could be a misalignment. Maybe there's supposed to be a three back there to help block Griffis. We don't know those kinds of things. So, it's important to make that kind of stuff clear. We're seeing these clips just for what they are in front of us. We don't have the play sheet in front of us. We don't have the formation sheet in front of us. So, we're just making our best guess on these kinds of things.
We also can't even see what was going on over towards the end of the field where the receivers were. I mean, this may have been just a pure run option, which probably isn't the case just because, typically we've seen Norvell's read options, or RPOs be a full RPO including a pass. But that being said, I mean, it doesn't look as though, and it's hard to tell just from the video, but it doesn't look as though Blackman's eyes go to the receiver's area. Or if they did pre-snap, it was hard to tell as well.
Right. Yeah, so what else did you guys see? What's something else that we could talk about?
Well, I'd like to talk about one of Toafili's runs.
All right, so I'll go ahead and try to pull that up.
All right, so, I mean, Lawrence Toafili here, a true freshman running back, but we've seen a couple times in these scrimmages some counter tray action. So they're going to get the guard and the tackle pulling. You get Brady Scott and Devontae Love-Taylor pulling around here. The first thing, if you're looking at defensively, that aspect, your three tech, Fabian Lovett can't get washed out of the play the way he does. Josh Griffis has got to close down. So meaning he needs to stay tighter to that tackle when that tackle down blocks. And then you need to see DJ Lundy kind of attack this gap here, this open space that opens up. He should be up there kind of forcing this play, but he doesn't show up until late. But it's a nice run by the offense. For as much as we heard how lousy they did in the scrimmage, this is a chunk play, and it's what they're going to need out of the running game to help the RPO stuff come along, and then just help confidence. Period. I mean, this is going to get the defense on its heels and help them be more successful as an offense.
Yeah, and honestly, it's encouraging that they have enough time to give the ball off, that the pullers are able to kind of get moving downfield. I know in Taggart's first year, the line was so bad that if there were pullers, they would get blown up in the backfield because the rest of the line literally couldn't down block.
Yeah, but you see, I mean, Brady Scott does a great job here. You'd like to see him be a little more inside out, meaning I'd like to see him get that left shoulder as opposed to taking Griffis on head on. I think that would be better technique, but he blows Griffis up, and then Love Taylor gets up in the hole, and Toafili's just finding space. He's doing a great job.
I'd like to see the linebackers get a little bit further downhill quicker on this play too. I mean, you see Kevon Glenn end up, sort of behind the play once Toafili gets through.
Yeah, I'm wondering where your safety is if Dent is there lined up at safety, or I think he's still 27. If he's lined up there at safety, there should have been a box safety coming down there. The Buck, he should have been down in that gap too. I'm not sure where he was.
Yeah, the linebacker and secondary just looked like they're a little slow to pull the trigger.
Yeah, that's concerning. I mean, you hear Norvell heaping praise on the defense, and Adam Fuller's kind of pumping the brakes on all that when he gets up to speak. Maybe there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't expect linebackers to be the strength of this defense anyway. But yeah, I mean, you definitely probably want to see a little bit better out of those guys from that there.
Yeah, you want them triggering faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we move on, after looking at the play a few times over, was that Quayshawn Fuller as defensive end there?
Yeah, he's been lining up as the field side defensive end.
So you had Lundy. Who would have been the field side backer there? Would it have been Glenn or Lundy?
Glenn.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Glenn.
Glenn would have been your Mike.
Yeah, it's just shitty camera work.
Yeah, which is interesting that Lundy's playing the Will.
Yeah.
He's playing that flow backer. But
that's not what I expected him to start at, but I mean,
yeah,
could be that they're rotating guys, seeing what they got at linebacker.
Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, when we're going through all of these things, it's not a surprise that maybe firing downhill, that's something that's going to take some time with these younger guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. That's yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're still getting their keys down and stuff. We got to remember they're on day 14 of practice or something like that. I mean, they just haven't had that many reps.
Yeah, they didn't get enough of a spring to really even. They didn't get a full week of install in spring.
No, three flipping days.
3 days.
I can't imagine that Norvell's offense helps the way that he pulls guys in the counters and messing with their keys and their reads and their heads and stuff. It doesn't shock me that they're all over the place a little bit. So.
Yeah, that makes sense why, and that makes sense why that what Adams was talking about earlier, that you hear Fuller pumping the brakes a little bit. I mean, there's going to be mistakes this early on. I mean, it's just the nature of it, especially like you said, John. I mean, it's designed to mess with those keys.
Right.
It's a glimpse of the offensive line being able to do something, though. Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, it's a positive.
It's a shot of the offensive line being able to do something. As much as they're going to get beat up by everybody and their brother that's got all their secret inside sources. But that was well blocked. That was well blocked against the guys that Norvell's been raving about. He raved about McClendon. He's been raving about Griffis. He's been raving about Fuller. He's been raving about Lundy. He's been raving about Lovett. I mean, I know it's not Marvin, all those guys, but still, there was a nice big chunk run there with your starting offensive line. So you got to build off of that stuff.
That's something that that's a play that Atkins is going to be happy about in the film room for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. After the past 2 years of just seeing pretty much any long run, seeing Cam earn it, it's nice to see the offensive line give a freebie.
Yeah, so they got to start just stacking those plays on top of each other, but that's just going to come from time and reps. I mean, we got 3 weeks to the first game. They've only got 3 weeks together, working together, really on the field. Just give it some time.
That's one thing I think a lot of folks need to be mindful of, is you got to be patient with a team that's going to be not just extremely young, overall, but young together. I mean, they really have not had this staff and this team together near enough time. I mean, they're going to have less time together than almost all of the schedule they face this year.
Yeah, and expectations, I'm trying to hype them up a little bit, but expectations are still that the O-line's going to be bad to below average. I mean, that's kind of what their wheelhouse is going to be. And, I'm hopeful that Norvell can scheme around that to get chunk plays and find some success for the offense.
That's one plus about the play like this, is that, for all the nonsense you hear about oh, this defensive line isn't going to be able to improve because of what they're going against. Look at plays like this. I mean, they're going to get some wins here and there.
Yeah, listen, I've been coaching football for a long time. Guys are winning. If they're dominating, they're doing it for a reason, and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. If you're a good player, you dominate. I don't buy this. You don't get better against bad competition. Get out of here with that nonsense.
If that was the case, Boise State wouldn't do anything on a national scale.
All right, stepping off my soapbox.
Coach Adams' soapbox.
No, that's nonsense. I hear it every week from different people. I mean, come on.
Well, I keep going back to the 2011. I mean, the 2011 defense, I think, was rated by S&P like number 1 or number 2, and they had probably the best defensive line in college football that year. I mean, they had that defensive tackle rotation was freaking stacked. I mean, you had Jenkins and Warner. Tank didn't come until the next year, if I recall correctly. But They were freaking stacked, and they were killing people. And that 2011 offensive line was one of the worst FSU had put out in years. And guess what? That defensive line was the best we've probably had since the 90s.
Yeah, if that were true, if all of that was true, then LSU would have elite offenses for the past 15 years, and that's just not the case. Iron sharpens iron. Not always true.
I understand the need to be skeptical, but just they're being taught well now. That's a big difference. And I mean schematically as a whole, not necessarily just the position group. They're being taught better now as a whole, and that's going to make a big difference for them.
Well, I think there was one thing about Kendall Briles' offense is, I mean, the plays work, but you could argue it wasn't as cohesive a scheme. The concept of it, it's just a bunch of plays that are put together. I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I feel like Norvell's offense really has a core philosophy to it, and he sticks to it. And one thing is, like we talked about, pulling guys and getting guys out on the edge. And it was really great to see that it worked.
No, yeah, I agree with that, John. I mean, you're starting to... Yeah, that's the thing as a defensive lineman. In Norvell's offense, you're going to start seeing a lot of different looks. You're seeing inside zone, outside zone every single play. You're getting the same reactions over and over and over again. Now you got counters. Now you got tight ends coming in and blocking you. You get all kinds of different looks. Your head's on a little bit more of a swivel, and you're having to slow down a little bit.
You mean tackles can pull out, play side, outside? That's a thing?
Yeah, apparently.
I mean, as much as I loved Kendall Briles, and I really am a fan of him. I think he's a good offensive mind. I do agree with what John's saying that, his philosophy was largely centered around winning with mistakes through pace and repetition. Whereas, Norvell's going to try to get different combinations of blocking schemes, different people in space. It's just a very different philosophy in how they do it. And both have their own merits. But, I mean, when you have a relatively limited offensive line that hasn't had a lot of time together, I would argue this is probably a little bit quicker to adapt to. Is that fair?
I think the hard thing's going to be it takes time to acclimate to any scheme.
Yeah.
And so These kids have been through the ringer having to learn Jimbo's scheme, then Taggart's scheme, then Briles' scheme, and now Norvell's scheme, that it's easy to get excited like Norvell's doing cool things that Briles didn't do or whatever. At the end of the day, both guys are some of the top offensive minds in the country, and both guys need time for their systems to implement. I'm under the impression that if Briles had 3 years here, we would have a different offense after 3 years. And I'm also under the impression that we shouldn't jump the gun on thinking that year one Norvell is going to be able to produce a top 25 offense. He's not. It's going to be a process.
Well, unfortunately, it's not even year one. It's year 0. I mean,
I'd argue -1.
They've had 3 weeks with these guys on the field. 3 weeks in 3 days. So, here's how I liken it. I took 6 years of Spanish through school. These guys have had 3 weeks to learn like Chinese, Mandarin, something ridiculous. I mean, we've seen some of Norvell's stuff, the language and the reads and the checks. It's insane. I can't imagine First off, they learned it all through Zoom, but now they're having to apply it on the field against Marvin Wilson, against Josh Kendo. Let's just slow down and let them learn a little bit.
Yeah, the guys that that Baby and Johnson are going to go up against all year, there's not very many who are going to be near the quality of Marv.
Agreed.
Or
I'm not saying it.
Cooper or half those other guys.
I'm not saying it's going to look pretty. It's
Nope.
going to look. It's going to look ugly. It's going to be sloppy. But let's just give it a little time. Just be patient.
This is not the year for glory anyway. I mean,
No.
You couldn't pick a better year to get a shortened schedule, I guess.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, now that we've given some of our more realistic opinions, why don't we start blowing some things out of proportion with the completion to Cam McDonald.
That's where I wanted to go. I was about to say, all right, Nick O'Leary's career, let's leave that behind. I mean, he really, there's been, I think, 3 clips that we've seen so far of him in the 2 scrimmages, and he really moves well for his size. He's not a guy who's going to be, traditional blocking tight end, obviously, but when you have a guy who's pretty dynamic at the tight end position, it's going to create mismatches with backers, and that's never a bad thing.
Yeah, I actually want to start this off by taking a closer look at Blackman's throwing motion here. It's short, it's over the top, and this is a downfield throw.
In the middle of the field.
Yeah, I like this a lot. I know it's been harped on a lot.
These are areas that he's not had success with in the past.
Even when he was, moderately successful for his level as a freshman in Jimbo's offense, you're right, these are not areas that they throw through to a lot. They kept it simple with slant, sticks, smash, stuff like that for him. That's going to keep him, short or towards the outside of the field. Make it half field reads, but putting it in the middle of the field was not something that Jimbo's offense asked James to do that particular year.
It almost looks like a little bit of a stick concept there. You see Douglas out in the flat. I think it's Douglas, and then McDonald kind of coming in from the outside and sitting down. It looks like they're working some spacing stuff there.
Yeah, maybe a hitches concept or a snag where he ends up kind of coming over the middle.
One of those 10-yard all-curls.
When Trey McKitty decided to leave, I thought that the tight end position would be in trouble, but Cam's looking pretty good.
Now look how low he gets there and making a gainer miss.
The tough part is they just need more bodies. They just don't have enough.
I wish Wilson hadn't gone down. It would have been nice to have a guy there, another guy there with some size that you could count on or do 2 tight end sets. I mean, I would imagine you're probably going to see, and this experiment didn't work out well in the past, but, for example, Jalen Goss is in as a blocking tight end sort of thing every now and then.
Yeah, they're going to have to do something.
You're telling me Wyatt Rector isn't going to come out and set the world on fire?
Damn near killed her.
Not sure I've seen the quarterback to tight end transition. We'll see.
Tebow should have done
it. The kids worked hard. I want to talk about the offensive line, though. We just got done talking about the offensive line. I know it's against the backup D line, but there's a nice pocket. Love Taylor, I think he got his shoulders turned, set a little wide there. Was kind of open to the counter move back inside by Fuller, but hey, a pocket's a pocket for this quarterback. To take anything you can give him.
Fuller's been getting a fair amount of burn too.
The fact that the defensive line is searching for a hole to penetrate is an encouraging sign,
And there's some pressure here too, or they're bringing some pressure. The defense is. That's not a defensive lineman there against Scott. I can't get a number to tell you who it is, but he's a little guy. So he's somebody coming from somewhere besides the D line.
And one other thing that you're seeing here is, DJ Lundy probably didn't drop it where he needed to, but he's again, what is it? This probably his 10th practice, something like that. 10, 11, 12 practices. I mean, he's not a guy that I expect to play, will backer at this point anyway. But they're, like we talked about earlier, they're trying guys in different spots, seeing what works. They're true, or they're for 4-3 or nickel package. You know, they've got some pretty good size on the interior there. Those backers between Lundy, Glenn, and these clips that we've seen, they're not sacrificing size. Well, no, definitely not sacrificing size with Dix.
No, that kid's yoked up.
No, I'm liking the size of the kids that we're bringing in this year.
Josh Storms, man. I mean, you know, everyone loves the strength coach the first year, but I mean, you're seeing some serious visible differences here that probably haven't seen year over year since Jimbo's first year, since Vic Victoria came in with him, and you know, there wasn't any sort of weight program prior to that, or you know, that anyone went to. I mean, so you're seeing some serious gains in that sense. It looks like, in that sense.
I think the biggest thing it speaks to is buy-in, which
exactly.
That's numero uno with the weight room.
There's really no such thing as like a strength coach whose methods don't work. It's really an issue of buy-in. I mean, you know, the strength industry, for lack of a better way to put it, has become fairly modernized since Moffitt, Hatch, all those guys came in with a more Olympic-style lifting thing. But, I mean, you know, you just got to have guys buy in, show up, put in the effort. And I think, hopefully, it seems, just based on the games we've seen this offseason, that these guys are doing it so far.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, every successful program is built inside the weight room, and that comes from everybody showing up to the weight room. And we saw it stop with Jimbo at a certain point. We're not going to talk about that point, but we saw it kind of fizzle apart. It didn't get any better under the next regime, and it seems right now like things are improving. So, you know, let's hope that trend continues. But I think it's going to take some winning on the field to get guys to believe.
Yeah, I think that's usually a good indicator of program health. If you got guys who are buying in the weight room, usually it means they're buying into the program.
Right. I guess my big thing now is like you guys said, I think it's year -1. I think it was a good point about it being a process. I'm encouraged that there has been progress towards that end, but it's a long way to go. We're not really going to see, I mean, we're going to see some stuff this year, but not what we want to see. There won't be an average offensive line, but they'll be better.
We're just looking for improvement game over game.
Right.
Aside from Clemson.
Or Notre Dame.
I think for me, what I want to see out of them, maybe I'll just not even talk about the season, but like out of Georgia Tech, is just fundamentals. You know, I can remember the Boise State game when Juan Williams was literally backpedaling to try to in his pass set. You know, I just want to see fundamentals. I want to see guys carry it over from practice to the game, from practice to scrimmage. I want to see them take it into the big field and do what they've been taught. I think that's going to be a good sign of where this program's at under Mike Norvell.
Yeah, we're not trying to do anything but measure progress this year.
Yeah, I don't think you can do more than that. It's just such an unknown. You don't know how many games you're going to get. It's just really a crapshoot. So progress is going to be the key.
Agree.
Yeah, so I think we beat a dead horse by this point, but I think that's about as much as we can take from this this short 1:36 of video that we've gotten. Do you guys have any closing remarks?
Give us some better film, please.
And if possible, do it above field level.
I'll take all 22. I mean, that's what it is.
I won't be that greedy.
No, just, hey, pump the brakes, Seminole fans. It's 3 weeks in. We got 3 weeks to go. Let's not panic. No, check your expectations. Know what your expectations need to be. This is still a mediocre group, talent-wise. Let's just let them keep working and keep building.
Agreed. Josh Griffis getting a tackle for loss on a run blitz is not the end of the world.